So now we'll talk about group 18 elements which are noble gases. Previously we discussed about group 16 and group 17, and now we'll proceed towards group 18. As we all know that group 18 elements, the group 18 belongs to the noble gases. So noble, without wasting time, we'll come to the noble gases elements. They are helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon and radon, and this is their electronic configuration. Except helium, which has 1s2 configuration, all the elements have a general electronic configuration of ns2 np6, that is completely filled valence shell. So it is for neon, it is 2s2 2p6, for argon 3s2 3p6, and so on till radon, which is 6s2 to 6p6. So this is the general this is the electronic configuration of the noble gases. So now if we quickly come to the atomic properties, let's first talk about ionization enthalpy. So if we say that the ionization enthalpy, since the noble gases have completely filled, they have completely filled valence shell. So the noble gases have stable valence shell electronic configuration, that is completely filled. So what would be the the trend in the ionization? They would have high ionization enthalpy. Not only high, it will be highest ionization enthalpy. The noble gases have the highest ionization enthalpy. So that means it is very difficult to remove the valence electrons from the valence shell of the noble gases. So since they have a stable electronic configuration, so they have high ionization enthalpy. Next, let's come to the atomic radii. So first you need to understand that in noble gases, size is measured in terms of van der Waals forces. It is measured in terms of van der Waals radii, not forces, in terms of van der Waals radii. And the van der Waals radii are always greater than van der Waals radii is always greater than covalent radii. So if it is always greater than the covalent radii, so the noble gases would have the highest size. So this implies the noble gases have highest size. So right now if we talk about, so the atomic radii is clear. So they have the highest size in their respective period because in them we consider van der Waals radii, and in +1 we had already discussed that the van der Waals radii is always greater than the covalent radii because here the van der Waals forces of attraction is considered. Now we talk about electron gain enthalpy. Again, due to fully filled valence shell electronic configuration, what would they have? They have positive value of electron gain enthalpy. That would mean it is very difficult to add an electron into the valence shell of the noble gases. So it was very simple. Now if we talk about the physical properties, we know that all the noble gases, they are monoatomic. That means their atomicity is, so if a helium exists as only helium, He, neon, or they exist as it is, not the diatomic like N2, O2. They simply exist in monoatomic form. Then they are colorless, odorless and tasteless. They are sparingly soluble in water and they have low melting and boiling points. Why they have low melting and boiling points? Because weak van der Waals forces exist between their atoms. So the weak van der Waals forces exist between their atoms, so hence they have low melting and boiling point. Helium has the lowest boiling point of 4.2 Kelvin, so it has the unusual property of diffusing through most commonly used lab materials such as rubber, glass, plastic, etc. And one thing we have already discussed, that as we move down the group, the melting and the boiling point increases, right? So helium will have the lowest boiling point and xenon would have the greatest melting point if we ignore radon, because radon is a radioactive element. Next, let's come to the chemical properties. The noble gases, they are the least reactive. Why they are least reactive? Because of their stable electronic configuration. They have general electronic configuration of ns2 np6, that is, and in helium it is 1s2. So they have exactly fully filled stable electronic configuration, hence they do not react. Why would they react when they have a stable electronic configuration? Next, they have high ionization energy and more positive electron gain enthalpy. Means if you want them to react, you have to either add an electron or lose an electron from their valence shell. So they will not do that. Why? Because they have high ionization energy, and it is very difficult to add on an electron into their valence shell due to their positive electron gain enthalpy. I think I made the point clear. Next is the discovery of the noble gas compounds. We say that they do not react at all, but that's not true. Some of the noble gases like krypton, xenon and radon, their compounds have been formed, they have been discovered. But now we'll discuss how the discovery of the noble gas compounds was done, right? There was a scientist, N. Bartlett. He was working on they was working on the compound O2, and he reacted PTF6. O2, it has the ionization energy of 1170 kilojoules per mole. It has ionization energy of this, and he reacted O2 with PTF6 and he formed a red colored compound. This is a red colored compound. Like, he was working on this. He took oxygen, he took PTF6 and a compound was formed. Ionization energy of O2 was 1170 kilojoules per mole. And he thought that, what did he do? He thought that ionization energy of xenon is 1172 kilojoules per mole, almost similar to O2. So if O2 could react with this amount of ionization enthalpy, then xenon would also react with this amount of ionization enthalpy. So what did he do? He reacted xenon with PTF6 and a red colored compound was formed. This is also a red colored compound. So now you are very sure then what would have happened. Since oxygen could form the red colored compound, xenon with the same ionization energy was also able to form the red colored compound. Hence this started that there is possibility for the formation of the noble gas compounds. So this was the main responsible factor which led to the discovery of the noble gas compounds. When there are compounds of krypton are fewer, only KrF2 has been studied in detail. Compounds of radon have not been isolated, but they have been identified like RnF2. No true compounds of argon, neon or helium are yet known. Only we know the compounds of xenon, we know the compounds of krypton which have been isolated. So if we are talking about these compounds, so let's talk about these xenon compounds. So we will first talk about xenon fluorine compounds. In our discussion, we have to consider these three compounds: xenon, XeF2, XeF4 and XeF6. So how these are prepared? These are found by direct reaction of elements under appropriate experimental conditions. I had mentioned this experimental conditions, so you can give a look. Xenon, if taken in excess with fluorine at 673 Kelvin and 1 bar, it will give XeF2. and if the ratio is 1:5 at 873 to 7 bar, it is XeF4. And if it's xenon gas plus 3F2 at 573 Kelvin 60 to 70 bar, it is xenon F6 is formed. Xenon, these by direct combination means you have the gas, you have the fluorine gas, you combine them and give the appropriate experimental conditions, you will get the compound. There is one indirect method. You have xenon fluoride. O2F2 is a fluorinating agent. Fluorinating agent means it provides fluorine. It's a fluorinating agent. So what happens? Oxygen loses this fluorine, it gives to this. So a XeF6 is formed with the release of O2 gas. So these are the different, either by direct combination or by you can say indirect method, right? Now we will talk about their properties. XeF2, XeF4 and XeF6 are colorless crystalline solids and sublime at 298 Kelvin. They are powerful fluorinating agents. Yes, they are readily hydrolyzed, means when they react with water, they react quickly. For example, these are very important reactions. When XeF2 reacts with water, it undergoes hydrolysis. What is formed? Xenon, HF and O2 gas is released. They are fluorinating agents, so they were bound to lose fluorine. XeF4 plus water, it will form Xe, XeO3, HF and O2. But if XeF6 reacts with water, complete hydrolysis is taking place. So XeO3 and HF is formed. So you have to learn these reactions. They are very, very important with the balancing. Since we have talked about these compounds, now we'll talk about their next property. Xenon fluorides react with fluoride ion acceptors to form cationic species and fluoride ion donors to form fluoroanions. For example, this XeF2 plus PF5. PF5 is a fluoride ion acceptor. So it accepts one F negative from this. It itself forms a cationic species and this forms anionic species. Similar is the next case. XeF4 with antimony F5 pentafluoride. What happens? This is a fluoride ion acceptor. So it accepts the fluoride ion and it loses, it forms the cationic species. MF here is a fluoride ion donor. So it donates the F negative to XeF6 and it forms XeF7 negative and a cation is formed. This is only possible with the metals. So this was possible either with the non-metals or the metalloids. So metalloids or the non-metals, they would act as fluoride ion acceptors, whereas a metal fluoride will try to act as a fluoride ion donor, right? Now we will talk about another. We have talked about xenon fluorine compounds. Now we talk about xenon oxygen compounds, how they are prepared. Either they are prepared by complete hydrolysis, so I'm stressing the word complete hydrolysis of XeF4 and XeF6. So if we have XeF4 with 12 moles of water, you get XeO3, which is the main xenon oxygen compound, and a xenon HF and O2 is released. If we have XeF6 and water, XeO3 plus 6HF are formed. Now if there is partial hydrolysis, means you control the amount of water. So if 1 mole of water is formed, 1 oxygen has to add. So if 1 oxygen has to add, 2 fluorine atoms have to go. So 2 fluorine will go, we are left with 4 fluorine and 1 oxygen. So this is how XeOF4 will be formed. Now if we have 2 moles of water, see that means indirectly 2 moles of oxygen, 4 fluorine have to go. So we are left with 2F2, 2F and 2 oxygen. So this is how XeO2F2 is formed. Now we talk about its properties. The XeO3 is a colorless explosive solid. XeOF4 is a colorless volatile liquid. In the next part, we'll talk about the structure of xenon compounds very quickly, which are the part of hybridization. So let me teach you. So if you have to predict the shape of XeF2, how will you take out the hybridization? Xe has valence electrons 8. The monovalent atoms are 2 divided by 2. Answer is 5. So that means the hybridization is sp3d. So if I talk about sp3d hybridization, that is a pentagonal bipyramidal geometry. So this will be fluorine and the rest will be occupied by the lone pairs. So sp3d means trigonal bipyramidal. Right. Now if I talk about XEF4, so if we have 8 plus 4, so it is 6, so that means it is sp3d2, so that means it is octahedral geometry. So if I have to draw the octahedral geometry, it would be like this, where fluorine, 4 fluorines, they occupy the corners and these are the lone pairs. So this has a square planar shape. This had a linear shape and this had the square planar shape. Now if I talk about XEF6, so how will you predict the hybridization? 8 plus 6 divided by 2, so that's 7, which is sp3d3. So how do we draw the shape? So first we have to draw a pentagon. At the corners, so 5 fluorine have been occupied, but there are total 7 bonds. So 1 fluorine and this will be the lone pair. This is distorted octahedral. So this shape is distorted octahedral. So this requires a practice. You might have done a lot of practice in +1, but if you still I am making the things easier. Now if you have XeO3, so here the hybridization will be 8 plus 0. Why we are not taking oxygen? Because it is divalent. So it is 4. So the hybridization is sp3, which means it has the geometry tetrahedral. So how do you predict? You make the 4 bonds. One of them is lone pair and the rest are the oxygen atoms with a double bond. So this is a pyramid shape. Right? Now if I talk about the last which is XOF4 and XeO2F2. So we have X is equal to 8 plus 4 divided by 2, that is 6. Here we have 8 plus 2 divided by 2, here it is 5. Right, so this is sp3d2 and this is sp3d, right? So if I talk about sp3d2, I have to draw, that is octahedral, we have already discussed. Here 4 fluorine atoms, 1 double bond oxygen and 1 is the lone pair. Similarly this, so first I will draw the, so this is the fluorine atom, these are the doubly bonded oxygen and this is the lone pair. So this is square pyramidal, this is square pyramidal and this is seesaw shape. So this is how you predict the shapes. If I have been very quick, just give it a look. So this is how, if you have problem, you can contact me in person, so I can elaborate more about these shapes. Now we are left with the last part of this chapter and this group, and this the uses of helium. So I would just quickly read what are these uses. Uses of helium. Helium is a non-inflammable and light gas. It's non-inflammable and very light gas, hence it is used in filling balloons for meteorological observations. It is used in gas-cooled nuclear reactors. Liquid helium, which has boiling point of 4.2 Kelvin, means it's very cool. It provides cool atmosphere. It is used as a cryogenic. Wherever you come across the word cryogenic, that means very low temperature. Cryogenic agent for carrying out various experiments at low temperature. Used to produce and sustain powerful superconducting magnets, which forms an essential part of modern NMR spectrometers and MRI, modern resonance imaging systems, for clinical diagnosis. Very important use, it is used as a diluent for oxygen in diving apparatus because of its very low solubility in the blood. It is insoluble in the blood, hence it is used in the oxygen cylinders. It's very, very important. We'll do this in detail in the solution chapter. So which is now the uses of neon. Neon is used in discharge tubes and fluorescent bulbs for advertisement display purposes. Neon bulbs are used in botanical gardens and in greenhouses. Uses of argon, used mainly to provide an inert atmosphere in high temperature metallurgical processes for filling electric bulbs used in laboratory. Handling substances and are air sensitive. And about xenon and krypton is used in light bulbs designed for special purposes. So this was quite a quick description of the uses. You go through these uses, you can have a screenshot of the uses, or you can always refer your book for the uses. So with this we have completed 18th group, and in all we have completed group 16, 17 and 18. I hope I made the things easier for you.